Well, we had some Masters drama, the Cubs raise a banner, and the NBA and NHL playoffs are coming up. Stay tuned. Sports Talk Live is next. Good day to you, Wisconsin, and welcome to another edition of Sports Talk Live. I'm Joey Olson.
I'm Craig Bradley.
And I'm Justin Rundberg.
Well, let's get right into it, folks. On Sunday, the best sports weekend of the year in Augusta, you had the Masters and just the best sporting event of 2017 and just all along so far. We've had a pretty uneventful, besides the Super Bowl, I guess, but you had some drama there on Sunday afternoon.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think you just have to feel good for Sergio, really. I didn't get to watch Sunday, the whole round, everybody play. I was working. But last night when I was doing research for this show, I watched a YouTube video of every single shot he shot on Sunday. So I have a pretty good idea of how he did. And I was impressed, honestly. Front nine, he was 2 under. He had the rough hole on 7 with a bad tee shot. Then he went into the sand with his approach shot, but then he had a really nice bunker shot and saved par for that hole. And then to be able to start off the back 9 with 2 bogeys and then come back on 14 and 15 with a birdie and an eagle is huge. So kudos to him, really. Yeah,
it really sounds like our panel here. We're more of a watch it on Sunday if it gets really close. And that's what it's all about. And it did go to a playoff shot. And we do have it queued up there, the final shot for Sergio Garcia to win. Do we have that in the back there?
For the Euros. In addition to the fact that
and after so many years, once and for all for Sergio.
There's just so many great things about Masters Sunday. That might be the last time you hear Vern Lundquist on CBS, and then Jim Nantz just getting story tell. So an awesome win for Sergio Garcia, who has had a few L's and bumps in the road and finally gets that green jacket.
What was who missed the putt when there was the guy behind him after and he was going like this? Was that Sergio or was that Rose?
No, that was definitely. I think that was Rose. I can't say for sure.
Okay, but that irked me because the guy behind was like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I want you to get out on the green and putt that putt 10 times with all these people watching, see how many times you make it." But
the best part about Masters too is if you go on Twitter, that fake account of Shooter McGavin will always talk about the '96 and one of the greatest golf movies of all time too.
The greatest golf movie of all time.
Anyways, moving on to another topic. So Sunday you had the Masters, and yesterday there was a big party in Chicago. You had the Cubs raise the 1908 World Series banner. You have it there on the screen, and what a great ceremony. It was raining a little bit. They had to delay it, but they played Dancing with the Stars there at Wrigley with David Ross. And right before the game, they had the Cubs go up and raise the banner themselves. One of the greatest sports moments in our young generation, and they got to party last night in Chicago after waiting a week before the MLB season started.
Yeah, good for Chicago. Not much to say about it. Not a huge Cubs fan, not a huge baseball fan in general. But one thing I did find was each ring that the Cubs get has 108 diamonds in it.
And they're going to give those away in tomorrow's ball game, so they're going to be partying all week Wednesday, there in Chicago.
Right, but 108 diamonds. I tried looking it up last night. I couldn't find out how much it cost, but it's got to be crazy money.
I think something that's kind of cool, too, is the fact that after all these years, to finally see those 2 banners sit next to each other, I think that kind of symbolizes a lot there. Just kind of that grittiness and kind of that draw it all the way out and kind of finally your time will come eventually.
And even so, they started the game late. It was a late game. There was a lot of Cubs fans that did go home. I don't give them any trouble because it was cold and rainy there. And they, of course, what did they do? They walked it off. The guy who was the first person to touch the rope was Anthony Rizzo, and he was the one that walked it off. Let's take a look in the back there and see that walk-off from last night.
Down the left field line, a fair ball, and the Cubs will win it.
The face of the franchise. Without a doubt, I think the face of the franchise there is Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant. Of course, they call him Brizzo together, and they're going to be competitive for years to come.
How old are they?
It's I can't tell you offhand.
Okay.
That's the
Yeah, I didn't know either. I think both
they're
of them are pretty
locked
young,
up, I believe, through at least 2020,
Okay.
and they just have a core around them that they're going to be competitive for many years to come, and going to be a thorn in the Brewers' rebuilding side as we move on here. The Brewers did start off their year 2-5 after a rough opening day. They took 2 out of 3. They did walk off the Cubs on Friday night, but you saw a lot of things that were a thorn in their side. Things such as striking out too many times, the bullpen not doing too much. It might be a rough year for the crew, but we're excited to see guys like Lewis Brinson and Josh Hader come up.
Yeah, I haven't really been watching much baseball at all so far, but I did catch a few innings of their game against the Cubs, and it looked like their pitching was struggling. I know they tied it up 4-4 at one point, switched to a different channel, and then we came back and they were down 6-4 like 10 minutes later. So I think the pitching is struggling, but yeah, hopefully the rebuilding process goes as smoothly for the Brewers as it did for the Cubs.
Oh yeah, I think to be honest, this might just be me, but I never really like to pay attention to kind of like the woes in front of in the beginning of the year for any sport, just because you're coming off that off season. It's going to take a little bit to get rolling, and once you do get rolling, obviously toward the end of the season,
Right.
Yeah, they were. I
Situations
think
change.
they were going back to the Cubs here for a minute. They were talking about Anthony Rizzo, how he didn't have an RBI yet. He was kind of 0-4 in the Brewers series, and they said that give the first 2 months, and when is it when you start to kind of find your groove? And sometimes it takes guys until Memorial Day before they get going, where the weather starts getting nicer, and you don't know. The Brewers do have a couple games tonight. They actually do get to open up the Rogers Center in Toronto against the Blue Jays tonight, and then they do get to go play the Reds throughout the weekend, where the Blue Jays kind of struggled in the first week. So see if they could get 2 on the road at the Rogers Center. Although opening day, another ceremony, we'll see how that goes.
Right.
So let's take a look. Take a look. Did you guys see anything throughout the first week of the Major League Baseball season that?
I found 2 things. One you just mentioned with Toronto. Like I said, not a big baseball fan, but I did a little research yesterday, and they were 89-73 last year, so they went to the playoffs.
Yep,
obviously,
they did, yep.
Had a pretty good season. They're 1-5 this year. Could just be them getting off to a slow start, long season. I wouldn't read in too much into anyone's record as of now. Cleveland at 3-3, Chicago at 4-2. Not too much to worry about with those teams. But then the Diamondbacks are off to a nice start at 6-2, which was surprising for me.
They did sweep the AL champion Cleveland Indians, and even that division, you had the Rockies start off 5-2 as well. They took 3 out of 4 from the Brewers, and then they actually did end up beating 2 out of 3 out of the Dodgers. So the Rockies were kind of my dark horse pick, and now that they have some bullpen help in Greg Holland and one of the, besides the Cubs, I guess, probably the best lineup in the National League. I think that's a team to look forward to. So I'm sorry, K-Pop in the back, and he's going to be on Hot Shot Sports and a Chris Bryant jersey at 4 o'clock. So stay tuned for that on WMCM. But I want to say that the Dodgers get their revenge.
Yeah.
That's my bold pick. I'm sorry. But anyways, moving into the American League, we talked about the Blue Jays struggle a little bit. Of course, it's the first week. The AL East is going to be very interesting to me. You have the best teams in there. The Rays started off well. The Orioles have a stacked lineup. The Red Sox is a lot of picks in the American League as well. And then a few other things to note. Former Brewers Mark Reynolds with the Colorado Rockies and Chris Davis both have 4 home runs each. So that's another one that you just...
I'm a big Chris Davis fan. Never want to get rid of him. So.
And then with the Diamondbacks, Zach Greinke, of course, is the guy that is the big money maker. And then Patrick Corbin has a 2 spot there. They could give the Diamondbacks some
Right.
fuel to compete in
Yeah,
the
an interesting
NL
stat
East.
for the Diamondbacks I have here. They have 5 guys right now hitting over 300, and all 5 of those guys have at least 10 at-bats. And they have another guy I saw who had 8 at-bats, 7 hits. He's hitting in the 800s. So they're swinging their bats well right now.
And then did you see on Sunday night, it was the Los Angeles Angels scored like 7 runs in the bottom of the 9th inning
didn't see
to
that.
beat the Mariners. And actually, the Mariners are off to a slower start, but I know that Westby native Scott Service, Westby is about 45 minutes or so away from Wisconsin, that they have some Wisconsin references there. And then also Eric Thames, the Brewer that's on the team now in Korea, he actually used to play for the lacrosse loggers over there at Copeland Park, who share with UWL as well. So different interesting Wisconsin connections in the MLB. So anyhow, let's take a break here, and when we come back, let's take a look at the Stanley Cup playoffs. And right now, let's take an edition of those looks of those perfect pets.
Hi, I'm Luther. I'm 3 years old, and I will follow your hand wherever it is to get all these scratches. Oh, that feels great.
Hi, I'm Maggie. I'm a 5-year-old Australian Shepherd Lab mix, and there's nothing I love more than playing fetch. Crikey!
Hello, my name's Lupine. I'm 2 years old and I love to play with all sorts of toys and getting lots of cuddles. Oh yeah, right there.
Hey guys, I'm Nico. I'm a 7-year-old energetic husky and I love to run, but I also love belly rubs. Oh yeah.
To find out more about adoption for these pets or others, contact the Cooley Region Humane Society at 781-4014.
For that, Cooley Region Humane Society is 781-4014. Well, some people say the month of March is their favorite month, but once you go to April, you have the Stanley Cup playoffs and the NBA playoffs starting all in the same time. And just starting tomorrow, you have 5 games in the first round to start the chase for the Cup. So guys, I know that hockey, if you travel a little bit more west here in the state of Minnesota, they have hockey fever. Even if you go down to Illinois, you have Chicago. But these first rounds of games, it can be anybody's game here as we go. Let's take a look at some of the matchups and see where we are here. Let's just go through the East here real fast. First off, you have the Senators and Bruins.
Sheesh, these are 2 rough topics in a row here. I don't know much about the NHL, but you said Senators, Bruins.
Yep. So
I'm going Senators.
Okay.
My good buddy is a huge Senators fan, so there's no logic behind that pick whatsoever. But I'm going to go with the Senators.
Okay.
I'm not too familiar with the East, but I've always heard good things about Boston Bruins, and I feel like that's a solid organization that should push a little bit
Raise
more.
the cup, not a few 2 years ago.
Yeah, they always make the playoffs, don't they?
Yeah, they actually so in the Stanley Cup playoffs, guys that have fired or organizations that have fired their head coach midway through the year have actually gone on to win a Stanley Cup. I can't remember the names of the other 2. Last year that didn't happen with the Penguins, but and anyhow, more so the West, you have the Canadians and Rangers, probably 2 of the greatest goalies in the game. You have Henrik Lundqvist versus Carey Price. So who you got there?
I got to go Montreal. I picked Montreal to make it all the way to the Cup, so obviously got to take them.
Okay, got to take them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd probably end up having to take Montreal too. They've been doing pretty well this year, so I think it would be kind of a surprise if they didn't.
Next down the line, you got the defending champion Penguins against one of the hottest teams in the Columbus Blue Jackets.
Oh, they still got Crosby on Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
All right, then I'm going Pittsburgh,
Okay.
obviously.
And then the last one, the Capitals probably the guy that has the most pressure in the game, Alex Ovechkin, against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, Toronto, when they found out that, because they just kind of clinched a playoff spot in the last weekend, when they found out their Leafs were back in the playoffs, that town went nuts. And as we go to the NBA, if you have the Maple Leafs and the Raptors in the playoffs at the same time, that is going to be the best city to be in.
It's a great sports town, yeah.
So who do you got? You got Ovechkin and the Caps, or do you have the Maple Leafs that can just rally behind a fan base like that?
I have to go with Ovechkin in Washington only because I know 0 players on Toronto.
You always go with the Maple Leafs. Any kind of team that can spark up their home crowd just to get you back in the game, that's always going to be a solid
true.
kind of...
I don't know. Fans are going to have to balance that energy between the Raptors and Maple Leafs, though. I don't know if they can do it. But I guess Washington has the Wizards, too. So two great sports towns coming up here.
So let's take a look and move on to the West. In the first side of the bracket, you do have the Chicago Blackhawks, who are at a 5-1 odds to win the Stanley Cup, versus the Nashville Predators. They're 2-hour rivals, and the Predators have never been out of the second round in a few times, and they're the positive energy is there. I know that the Predators they faced Chicago a few times in the last few years, and the Hawks went on to win Stanley Cups in both of those years.
Yeah, so I've seen Chicago win too much, or win lately too much to go against them, so I can't go against Chicago here.
I'm going to have to agree. The experience is just too much for the other team at this point.
Being from southeastern Wisconsin, being about an hour away from Chicago, we said Toronto has some good fans. The Blackhawks, they're just all around. Chicago is a good sports town, no matter how much I tend to disagree with their fandom.
Now, could we possibly get a Minnesota Wild Chicago Blackhawks?
If they can beat off the Blues in the second round, or the first round, yeah, that could be a matchup.
Would that be in the second round, or would that be in the
That'd be in the second round, yep. Take a look at can we get the bracket up once again?
I was hoping that would be in the Western Conference final.
That'd be in the second round, as you have it there.
Right, okay.
And
shoot.
And then if you really want to stay up late, you have the other two matchups with the Anaheim Ducks and the Calgary Flames, and then the Edmonton Oilers and the San Jose Sharks. So I'm going to have the Sharks move on to the Western Conference Finals because of Joe Pavelski being from Plover, Wisconsin, there right by Stevens Point.
I was going to say the same exact thing.
And seeing the Sharks and Blackhawks Western Conference Finals would kind of be like as excited I am as for the first round matchup of the Thunder and the Rockets if you go on to basketball. Right. So let's take a bold prediction here. We talked about the first round matchups. They're all there. I'm so excited the next few weeks. Who hoists the best trophy in sports, the Stanley Cup?
It's got to be Chicago. Got to go Chicago.
You're going to go Chicago?
Yep. Once again, no merit behind that pick at all. Just shooting with Chicago.
That's always a solid choice, but I think this year is Minnesota's year. They're only two games behind the Blackhawks right now. I think the last time I checked, they were at either 51 wins or 50 wins, and Minnesota's sitting strong at 49 and 25.
Minnesota's a 2 seed, right?
Yes, it's different in the NHL. You have like the first 3 seed. You have the 3 seeds in each division and 2 wild cards. It's not like the NBA.
Gotcha. Okay.
But, if I have to make a bold prediction here, I'm going to go with the Capitals because in the last few years, with the NFL, NBA, things like that, the best team has won in each of the years. Like the Cubs won the World Series last year. The Patriots, I thought, was the best team in the NFL. Even though they were down 28-3, they got it done. I think this year it's the Washington Capitals. Alex Ovechkin is just too much of a star to not see himself at some point move on and win the Stanley Cup. So that's where we are there. So when we come back here, we're going to talk about the NBA playoffs. And I'm really excited for those for the weekend here. You have 2 more games in the regular season, and then we're going to start the playoffs starting on Saturday. But first, let's take a break at the UWL Comp Club. UWL Com Club. I'm so blessed to get the chance to join that club as I'm running down my time here at UWL. Moving on here, we have the NBA playoffs coming up, but you do have a few regular season games to end. And the local team here in town, or a few hours away, the Milwaukee Bucks, have their first winning season since 2010 and is looking for a series win in the NBA playoffs for the first time since 2001. They wrapped up their winning season on Monday with their 42nd win, and then they play again against the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. So, guys, they have two chances or opportunities to play in the playoffs. They're either going to play the Washington Wizards or the Toronto Raptors. Who would you rather face, or who are they going to face?
Well, I think they're going to face Toronto. I'd way rather have them face Washington. Reason being, Toronto without Kyle Lowry, their second best player, still has a better record than Washington does right now. Lowry's coming back. I think that's a tough matchup for Brogdon. He's just as stocky as Brogdon is. He can be as physical as Brogdon is.
And who knows what Michael Brogdon's health is going to be like
exactly
in the playoffs
with the hurt
too.
back.
Yep.
I just think Toronto's a tough matchup for the Bucks. I've seen them blow out the Bucks way too many times in the past two seasons.
I think they have the 3 out of the 4 this year, but the fourth.
Toronto does.
Yeah, the fourth game, the Bucks did get it done.
Okay, so one out of 4, and if they were to see them in the playoffs, I kind of expect that's how the series would go. They'd probably steal 1 or 2 games, but that's it. But if they do play Washington, I think they got a legit shot.
Okay.
I'd have to agree. Pretty much everything you said is pretty much what I think, except that with Wizards, you don't really hear much other than about John Wall just kind of doing it up. So I mean,
even as they say, don't count out John Wall being kind of an X factor with guys like say Giannis Antetokounmpo or Kyle Lowry or even Steph Curry, or that John Wall is a guy that can take over a game, and sometimes in the NBA it's that star player that hits the buzzer beater shot. Or I think that John Wall is right up there. So I guess as a Bucks fan, you do want to see the Bucks play the Wizards because they have the better chance to win. But as we said, Toronto, that they get so crazy for the playoffs, and Milwaukee is going to sell out the Bradley Center too, and that place gets louder than ever too. So we're really excited for the Bucks to go in the playoffs. And again, Bucks, come on, Bucks and 6.
Bucks and 6 every year.
Let's move on to the Eastern Conference here, and really the big question is in the East is, can anybody beat the Cavs in a 7-game series? What do you guys think?
I don't see it. I mean, you saw what LeBron James, the Cleveland Cavaliers team, did to Boston. What was that, last week when they went to Boston, won by about 30? Boston struggles way too much when Isaiah Thomas isn't on the floor. They can't score. You saw it when the Celtics played the Bucks, and the Bucks actually won in Boston 2 weeks back, I believe it was. So, no, Boston has too many question marks for me. Toronto, they haven't been able to do it in the past. I don't see them being able to do it this year. And other than that, I don't think any other team in the East has any shot at all. So
I will have to disagree with you there. When we look at the rankings, we can see that the Spurs are just right on there. They're not too far out, and I think that if they play great to finish up their year, I think they could.
So you think in the finals?
Yeah, close to the finals is what I mean. I think they could really make a good run, considering that even with Cleveland in that division, they're playing very well.
Right.
Get one more done with Greg Popovich.
Oh yeah.
So nobody thinks here that Cleveland will go to another NBA
No,
finals.
I think they will. I think they will. Yeah.
Justin is a little ahead of the game here. We'll go to the West in a minute. But first, there's a matchup that's already set in stone, and that is the Oklahoma City Thunder against the Houston Rockets, and more importantly, as the two guys you see on the screen there, Russell Westbrook, who has gotten more triple-doubles in a season than anybody, versus James Harden and the Rockets, who can be just as much of a stud as Russell Westbrook. Who wins this series and why?
I have to go with the Rockets. I think they got too many shooters around. I don't think Westbrook has enough help. And to me, I would rather have Harden over Westbrook right now just because of the efficiency. I don't want to tear apart Russell Westbrook's game. He's obviously a great basketball player, but when you watch him, you see him turn the ball over a lot. You see him shooting off-balance shots, not very good shots. I feel like James Harden's just a smarter overall player, gets to the free throw line just as much, and he has better shooters around him. So I would have to go Rockets in this series.
I'm going to have to go OKC. I think James Harden is a complete psycho when it comes to shooting and just playing. But I think Russell is actually, in my opinion, just a little bit better skill-wise. He has that ability to run anywhere on the court. He can dribble the ball. He can shoot. He is the team half the time. So I mean, I'd rather have someone in that position rather than James Harden working with everybody else. I think personally, anyways.
I do want to see a Rockets Spurs second round there, because the Rockets are going to be the 3 and then the Spurs being the 2. But again, I'm going to flip a coin here. It might go down to Game 7, as we said with these stars before. It's going to be flip a coin who has the last possession in some of these games. And let's not forget the Wisconsin guy, Sam Decker, is out for the season, who's given the Rockets. I can't remember the injury. He is out for the season.
I think it's a hand or thumb, or there's some wrist or something.
Yep.
So, yeah, that's a great first-round matchup, though. I'll definitely be watching.
One of the best ones in the first round in the NBA, because sometimes you have those 8-1s and sometimes even the 4 and 5s is different. I think this year truly these first round matchups are some of the best that we've seen in a few years.
Honestly, I think Indiana versus whoever they play as the 2 seed, if they hold on to that 7 seed, I think that's going to be a great matchup
that's all
too.
In the East. It's all up in the air. In the West, you do have the Warriors versus the Blazers, the Clippers versus the Jazz, and then the Rockets, Thunder, and Spurs, Grizzlies. And the only difference there is saying the Clippers and the Jazz, they're still fighting for home court advantage. The Clippers have the advantage right now, but they both have 1 game left on Wednesday night, which is tomorrow. So again, we said, can anybody compete with Cleveland? I know Justin says that the Spurs are going to get to the NBA Finals once again, but is anybody else? Do you think the Spurs are in the Warriors' way, or do you think the Warriors will get there after how hot they've been?
The Warriors have
recently?
Too many players, in my opinion. I don't see the Spurs being able to contain them for 7 games. There's too many shooters on that team. The argument people like to make is, well, if they have an off shooting night or a few off shooting nights, then they're going to lose. You got Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, 3 of the 10 best shooters in the NBA on one floor at one time with Draymond Green. There's just too much firepower for any team to contend with them and win 4 games. I think we're going to see a repeat of Cleveland and Golden State in the finals.
And then from then on, I know that Justin says that the Spurs are going to make it there. Is it going to be the Warriors, or is it going to be the Cavs again?
I think Warriors this time.
Warriors?
I don't see them. I don't see them losing again to the Cavs. No.
I also agree. I believe it's going to be the Warriors. They just have an all-around, just like a elite unit. There we go.
You're changing your pick there. Hold on a second.
Oh, I'm not changing it. I'm picking them over Cavs.
Okay.
The Cavs, I just don't have.
You said the Spurs were going to win earlier, though.
Right.
In the Western Conference. So is it going to be the Warriors or the Spurs making the finals?
It's going to be the Spurs.
He keeps going back and forth.
No. You confused me.
That's okay. You know what? We're only so much here. So anyhow, that's it for our edition of FaceTime. Okay. Well, we should start with me here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. All right, so I know that we've talked about the MLB, the NBA, and the NHL. Let's move on to Labor Day when college football starts. I'm repping the Badgers here today, and this year I'm going to make a bold prediction that they'll go 11-1 and face Ohio State in the Big Ten Championship. There's a lot to get excited about over there in Badgerland. The spring practices have been going okay. Of course, Alex Hornibrook has had his spring break with Johnny Manziel and a few QB camps. If he improves, the Badgers could be very exciting on offense and defense. Let's move on here to Cray.
All right, so my little rant here is about LeBron James and the media and just people in general on his back for sitting out games. The guy has played in over 1,000 career basketball games. He's played in 14 seasons, and in only 2 of those seasons, he's played less than 70 regular season games. He's always out on the court. He's been the best player in the world for at least a decade now. And not to mention, the last 6 seasons, he's been playing deep into June while the other guys are at home resting. So I don't want to hear this. It's bad for the NBA. The revenue goes down because people aren't buying tickets for the games. Sure. A meaningless Tuesday night game in Charlotte is not as important as LeBron James being healthy and rested for the NBA Finals. So I just want to debunk that argument right there.
Make sure you stay tuned for Hot Shot Sports at 4 o'clock, or 4:30 rather. And that's it for this edition of Sports Talk Live. We'll see you at 4:30, folks.